Imagine waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of gunfire and explosions. Your village engulfed in chaos. This is a terrifying reality for thousands of people in northeastern Nigeria. Today, we're diving deep into the story of one of the most feared and ruthless terror groups in the world. They've kidnapped schoolgirls, destroyed entire towns, and left a trail of fear and destruction in their wake. But how did they rise to power? What drives them to commit such heinous acts? And what is being done to stop them? Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll not only understand the shocking truth behind this terror group, but also discover the untold stories of courage and resilience from those who have faced their wrath. Origins and ideology. Boko Haram was founded in 2002 by Muhammad Yusuf in northeastern Nigeria. At its core, Boko Haram started as a small Islamic sect with a radical mission: to oppose Western education and the government policies they felt were corrupt and un-Islamic. Yusuf believed that Western education, or Boko, was a major influence that corrupted the minds of Muslims and led them away from the teachings of Islam. This conviction was so strong that it became the defining feature of the group's ideology. Now let's talk about the name Boko Haram. It's a combination of two words, Boko, which translates to Western education, and Haram, which means forbidden in Arabic. So Boko Haram essentially means Western education is forbidden. This name is not just a title, but a declaration of the group's core belief: a total rejection of Western influence, particularly in education and governance. Yusuf's vision was to establish an Islamic state governed by Sharia law, completely free from the perceived, corrupting influences of the West. He argued that the Nigerian government was illegitimate because it was based on Western-style secularism rather than Islamic law. This belief drove Boko Haram's early activities, which included setting up their own mosques and schools to promote their radical ideology. In its early years, Boko Haram attracted many followers who were disillusioned with the Nigerian government and its inability to address poverty and corruption. Yusuf's charismatic leadership and clear anti-Western message resonated with many people who felt marginalized and ignored by the state. However, the group's approach quickly turned violent as they sought to impose their version of Islam and combat what they saw as the corrupting influence of Western education and culture. To sum up, Boko Haram's origins lie in a radical opposition to Western education and a desire to create an Islamic state in Nigeria.
Have repeatedly targeted schools, killing and abducting hundreds of students and teachers. Dozens of students were killed and burned while they slept in the town of Bunyadi 4 years ago.
The name Boko Haram encapsulates their ideology: a firm stance against Western influences and a call for a return to strict Islamic principles. This foundational belief set the stage for the group's violent campaigns and the brutal tactics they would later adopt in their quest to reshape Nigerian society. Key events and escalation. Now let's explore the key events in escalation that transformed Boko Haram into a name synonymous with terror. First, let's talk about the pivotal year 2009. This was the year that marked a significant turning point for Boko Haram. It all started when the group launched a violent uprising against the Nigerian government. Boko Haram members clashed with Nigerian security forces in a series of brutal confrontations. The government responded with a heavy-handed crackdown, resulting in a bloody massacre. Muhammad Yusuf, the group's founder, was captured and killed, along with hundreds of his followers.
Muhammad Yusuf was the leader of an Islamic sect which launched deadly raids across northern Nigeria this week. He died in police custody just hours after security forces said they had captured him in the city of Maiduguri.
The death of Yusuf and the massacre of many Boko Haram members could have signaled the end of the group. However, instead of disappearing, Boko Haram went underground. They spent the next few years regrouping, re-strategizing, and growing even more radical. When they re-emerged, it was with a vengeance and a new level of brutality. One of the most shocking and heartbreaking events that brought Boko Haram to global attention was the kidnapping of the Chibok schoolgirls in 2014. On the night of April 14th, Boko Haram militants stormed a secondary school in the town of Chibok in northeastern Nigeria. They kidnapped 276 schoolgirls who were preparing for exams. This event horrified the world and highlighted Boko Haram's ruthless tactics. The girls were taken into the dense forests and forced into marriages, conversions to Islam, and even slavery. The Chibok kidnapping wasn't just a random act of violence, it was a calculated move to terrorize communities, disrupt education, and challenge the Nigerian government's authority. The global campaign, Bring Back Our Girls, supported by activists and celebrities worldwide, drew massive attention to the plight of the kidnapped girls. Despite international pressure and efforts to rescue them, many of the girls are still missing, and their fates remain uncertain. These key events, the 2009 uprising and the Chibok schoolgirls kidnapping, marked significant escalations in Boko Haram's campaign of terror. The group evolved from a regional threat into a global symbol of extremist violence. These acts underscored their brutal tactics and their focus on education targets, aiming to instill fear and demonstrate their power. Tactics and operations. Let's dive into the tactics and operations that have made Boko Haram one of the deadliest terror groups in the world. Boko Haram is infamous for its extreme violence and terror tactics. They use a variety of brutal methods to spread fear and maintain control. One of their most devastating tactics is suicide bombings. They have deployed men, women, and even children as suicide bombers to target crowded markets, mosques, churches, and public places. These bombings cause massive casualties and instill a deep sense of fear in the population. Another key tactic is kidnapping. We've already talked about the Chibok schoolgirls, but that's just one example. Boko Haram frequently kidnaps men, women, and children. These kidnappings serve multiple purposes. They create a climate of fear, provide a source of income through ransom payments, and supply the group with new recruits, especially young boys, who are often forced to join their ranks. In addition to bombings and kidnappings, Boko Haram carries out relentless attacks on civilians and military targets. They raid villages, burn homes, and kill anyone who resists. These attacks are not just random acts of violence, they are strategic moves to destabilize regions, undermine the government, and assert their power. By attacking military installations, they aim to weaken the security forces and seize weapons and supplies. Now let's talk about how Boko Haram funds its operations. Their primary sources of income are ransom kidnappings, bank robberies, and looting. When they kidnap people, they often demand large sums of money for their release. These ransoms can run into millions of dollars, providing significant funds for the group. They also rob banks, taking large amounts of cash to finance their activities. Looting is another major source of revenue. When Boko Haram raids villages, they steal food, livestock, and valuable goods. This not only sustains their members, but also deprives local communities of resources, making them more dependent and easier to control. There are also reports suggesting that Boko Haram has links with other extremist groups. These connections could provide them with additional training, arms, and strategic support. For example, they may receive weapons and training from groups like Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, AQIM, or ISIS, which helps them carry out their deadly operations more effectively. Impact on Nigeria and the region. Now let's explore the impact of Boko Haram on Nigeria and the surrounding region. Boko Haram has caused a severe humanitarian crisis. Over 2 million people have been displaced from their homes, forced to flee to safer areas within Nigeria or neighboring countries. Tens of thousands of people have been killed in their brutal attacks, leaving countless families devastated. The violence and instability have created a massive refugee crisis, with people living in overcrowded camps, facing dire conditions and a lack of basic necessities. Economically and socially, the effects have been devastating. Boko Haram's attacks have disrupted education across northeastern Nigeria. Schools have been destroyed, and many children are too scared to attend classes, robbing a generation of their right to learn. This disruption has long-term consequences, hindering economic development and perpetuating the cycle of poverty. The region's economy has also taken a severe hit. Agricultural activities have been abandoned due to fear of attacks, leading to food shortages and increased prices. Trade routes have been disrupted, and businesses have closed down, further straining the economy. Security across the region is severely compromised. The relentless attacks have overwhelmed local security forces and created an environment of constant fear and uncertainty. Neighboring countries such as Chad, Niger, and Cameroon are also affected as Boko Haram's violence spills over their borders, straining their resources and complicating regional security efforts. Global and local responses. Let's dive into how both local and global communities are responding to Boko Haram's terror. First, the Nigerian government has taken several measures to combat Boko Haram. They've declared states of emergency in the hardest-hit regions and launched extensive military operations to root out the insurgents. However, these efforts haven't been without controversy. There have been numerous accusations of human rights abuses by security forces, which complicates the situation and sometimes undermines public support. On a global scale, the international community has stepped in to help. Countries and organizations have provided humanitarian aid to support the millions of people displaced by the conflict. Military support and intelligence sharing have also been crucial. For instance, the United States and other nations have offered training, equipment, and strategic advice to Nigerian forces. However, international cooperation is complex and requires a multifaceted approach to address the root causes of extremism, such as poverty, corruption, and lack of education. In summary, both local and global responses are critical in the fight against Boko Haram. While progress has been made, challenges remain, and a coordinated, comprehensive approach is essential. If you found this video informative, please hit the subscribe button and check out our other amazing videos on this channel. Thank you for watching.